Hi, good afternoon. My name is Jesse Varsalone. Welcome to the presentation on cyber competitions. Um, this is for MetaSolutions and the October meeting. I'm really appreciative for all of you watching the presentation. Sorry I couldn't be there. I actually dual booked myself to present here as well as at TAC in Columbia, which used to be called Dreamport. Um, I'm doing a presentation over there for the Cryptological Museum. If you've never had a chance to take a field trip to there, it's a great thing. I got a chance to do that with a high school group over the summer. I really enjoyed getting to see the Enigma and all the various uh, older supercomputers they had, and they have a whole presentation for your students. It's a day for you to learn and relax and let some of the other teachers there kind of guide the lessons, and they have a scavenger hunt, so it's a great opportunity. Anyway, I would like to give a special thanks to Iris, Vinny, and Noel. Just so you know, I actually taught at CCBC here in this building before. I've known Vinny for 20 years. I've known Iris for, I would say, a good 10 years. And I've known Iris probably for 15 and Noel for at least 10 years also. So I've been around a while. Speaking of which, I was going to tell you a little bit about my background. I've been in the same place as a lot of you. I've taught high school. I taught in Baltimore City for 5 years. That was the beginning of my first career, my first job. I actually didn't even get a call that I got the job. In 1994, teaching jobs were harder to come by. I actually got a letter in the mail and I showed up, and I knew nothing about how to teach, of course, because you don't learn that in college. How to actually teach students. I was there for 5 years. I went to Baltimore County Public School for 3 years. I have a very diverse teaching background, one of the most diverse ones I've ever known. Started teaching um, math at night at Coppin while I was teaching in the county and the city. And then I got a call, which I thought was a solicitation from UMBC about their training center, but they actually wanted me to interview for a teaching position, teaching computer classes like A plus, Net plus. I actually went there and I didn't do too well on the technical parts because I didn't really know a lot about, the underpinnings of the operating systems of DOS and Windows and stuff. So they agreed to train me because they said I was a good teacher, just needed the back technical background. I got my A plus cert, which was part of the requirement. That was back in 2000. The school I was teaching at was non-credit. That UMBC school became Towson. Those were over on Security Boulevard. After that, I went to Johns Hopkins teaching non-credit in Columbia. That's how I wound up living in Howard County. After that, Stevenson. Then I pivoted to the Department of Defense, where I actually taught network intrusions and forensics and A plus and all these different courses to people in the Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, work at NSA. So I really got a different level of understanding of technical things than I had in academia. So I really appreciated my 5 years there. I also taught online for about 15, almost 20 years now. I started teaching online at Champlain and UMGC, where I am now, and I'm also the cyber coach. The one thing I wanted to mention to everyone about UMGC that I always promote is anyone who graduates from any community college in the state of Maryland and gets their associate's degree, they can take their final 2 years at UMGC for the same costs. So the same costs they pay at Howard or CCBC or PGCC or Harvard Community College. It's called a completion scholarship. It's something everyone needs to be aware of. It's not just for cyber. It could be for English. It can be for history, it can be for math, anything. So I have a number of certifications which I talk about. I'm also associated with the barely any time left with three kids in with the United States Cyber Team. Interestingly enough, they one thing that's a little strange about them is they have an age limit, and so it's like 16 to 26. The reason they have that, which, I was a little upset about when I first heard about, is because they compete internationally. So they just came back from Poland. They finished second to Italy in the world. And it's because the international laws have to do with the ages. And I actually just I finished a book with one of the students I met at a competition I was running on a military base. And that book's Hack Is Back. The student was in the Navy. He was a superstar. I asked him if he wanted to collaborate on a book. He said, "Yeah, sure." So he finished all his chapters and he was like, "All right, are you done?" And I was like, "No, I haven't started," but he motivated me to get done. So I just wanted to mention that also. All right, so one of the things I like to show people about my certs, no, I'm not bragging, but look at the length. So you have 25-year gap between certs. So you never stop learning. A lot of the information can be redundant. I first got my CCNA in 2001. Then I think it was like 2007, then like 2011. So I haven't renewed that one, but some of the certs like I got from CompTIA, all the certs before 2010 were good for life. That's why you see the NA in the column. Uh, so I like the CompTIA certs. I find that they're worthwhile. At our university, we have a program for all our adjuncts that they can get free certification vouchers. We don't have other programs to offer for other vendors like Cisco or EC Council, but we do have that program. So that's a little bit of that. This is my old computer setup, so this is how I learned back in the day, even at CCBC. We had some good computers we used to take apart, put them back together, put the RAM in, hard drives in, do all that fun stuff. As you can see, I had a variety of Macs and Windows and all. I actually blew the power at that house and had BGE have to come out. But a lot of that I don't need anymore. It was very good for learning. The one thing that I find in these cloud environments with AWS and Azure and all these virtual labs is a lot of the students, especially Cisco, aren't as familiar with what to plug in where when it comes to what's a crossover cable versus you know, RJ45 versus RJ11 versus. So the cabling can be a challenge if you've never actually physically done that. But nowadays I use virtualization. So VMware Workstation is now free. So I do use that when I taught at CCBC, and I also taught at Solars Point for CCBC. I used a lot of virtualizations, virtual machines to teach networking, to teach protocols. I have virtual VMs. If you want to reach out to me, I'll give you my email at the end of presentation, or you can get it from Vinny. And I would set up different FTP servers or mail servers or web servers, all these various services, file and print sharing. We use Wireshark to capture network traffic. And that's kind of where we're going with the competitions that a lot of the competitions do. It's beneficial for you to have a virtual machine running Kali Linux. So Kali Linux is a pen testing distribution that many use. Some people use Parrot Linux, but it's really good for your students when they want to get jobs or do well in competitions to practice using Linux and different versions of Windows like Server every day. These are things that I practice every day, and I've been using Windows since 1994 when it was released, and I've been using Linux for 25 years now. And yet I still practice every day. A lot has changed over those years, and a lot has remained the same. So some of the commands that worked all the way back to MS-DOS work on Windows 11. Some of the commands that worked in the earliest versions of Linux I ever used still work. Some commands are updated and deprecated, etc. But yeah, it's really good to get a lot of practice. This was actually a project that I worked on for quote unquote fun, installing every version of Windows ever made. And I don't have a couple of the newer ones, but as you can see, I got them all running and turned on at once on this one MacBook I have that only has 16 gigs of RAM. Because as you remember, a lot of the earlier operating systems didn't require a lot of resources, RAM or disk space. So it was a fun project for me. I spent extensive time teaching installation, networking, and all that. So when I was at Hopkins for 5 years, I was teaching day classes and night classes and weekend classes, and we had a lot of Windows during that time. Okay, so let's talk about you. You're all here not to learn about me, but the benefits for you and your students. So why do you need a cyber team in your school? Many of you may already have one. I know some of you personally, and I know you have teams. Um, I actually used to be a high school football and swimming coach and wrestling coach. So I tell a lot of people that I meet that are high school teachers, that are coaches, etc., because what I'm trying to emphasize is I pivoted, right? I was this for a while. I enjoyed coaching. It's different, but there's some similarities. But everybody at some point usually likes to do something different or pivot. So it allows you the flexibility to pivot your career. Um, there are many students and teachers, faculty I know that the only reason that they wound up getting the job they applied for, they may say they were in Maryland and they moved to North Carolina or South Carolina or something like that, was because they were affiliated with the cyber team or they were running a cyber team. I know what there was no reason. Noah was so happy to have Vinny when she came. She was one of the most recognized and best teachers in the state. But he was also happy that she was going to work with the cyber team, and she's been working with it and doing a great job, I would like to say. So, but basically, it also allows you to meet other people and network with other people. I talk about how long I've known some of the people at these schools. This is through the outreach. So not only do I run my own cyber team, I run competitions as well, and I teach, various high school and do boot camps and work with. I've run some community college competitions. How I get away with doing that is actually it's beneficial to my university because a lot of the people that graduate from community college will go to UMGC because it's a perfect pivot, right? You can get your last 2 years at the same rate, and it's online. You don't have to travel. It's got a University of Maryland name recognition. So it works out well for me. Even a lot of high school students, we don't get a lot of high school students at UMGC. We're getting more than ever before because a lot of students are considering, going to school online, which was most students really wanted a traditional school. But interestingly enough, we have a great relationship with the community colleges. We're not a competitor. I was once at a event with my boss's boss, and we were meeting students and talking to them, and he told the students to go to community college as opposed to come to us right away, which I found to be shocking. And I was wondering if it was almost a conflict. And he's like, no, students are more successful when they go to community college first. Because UMGC, it's online. You have to be self-motivated. You have to be disciplined. And you can get the care you need at a community college. And I taught at a community college, and I'm just going to come out and say it. I've taught at many universities, as you saw in the first slide. Um, I I think some of the best teachers in the entire world are at community colleges because you really have to know how to teach well to stand in front of an audience and a lot of audience that may not understand all the concepts initially. So you really have to know how to break things down and actually teach concepts and be receptive to students that may need different teaching styles. So I have nothing respect for our community colleges. Jobs, so your students can get jobs. I know high school teachers who have pivoted to working in the field. It does happen. We want you to do what's best for you. Um, it also can give your school recognition. You like to get recognition. The school likes, the principal likes that. When you get recognition, the principal finds money for the cyber team. Outreach. I've heard of different high schools doing things like, services for computers and pen testing and web services. We're actually working on basically an institute where we can basically have people working at our community college, I mean, our university, doing various jobs for the state, like pen testing of the water systems and stuff like that. So we're working on that. That's still like a grant that's in the mix, and that was another one of my points. Also, middle states, they like to see outreach and stuff like that. What kind of things can you work on? Well, Cyber Patriot is a great place for all of you to start. Um, we have an equivalent. Uh, Basically, we have something called CCDC. But if you're not familiar with Cyber Patriot, that is a great competition. They have different rounds, and they have competitions for middle schools and high schools, and training rounds. I've worked with students and teams doing this. I actually was on the red team. Usually, the championships are actually held in Maryland, so we have a lot of advantages to being in this geographical area. But this is definitely something I would recommend that you look into. I'm sure you can, another chance you can work with some of the other high school that already do this. I know Howard uh, over there at ARL, the applied they do Cyber Patriot. I know Eastern does Cyber Patriot. So there's different schools that do that. Work with local community colleges. I'm working with some of the community colleges. I'm trying to work with Vinny. We're going to try to start a Baltimore County competition. I've run Cyber Maryland before, which had schools from all over the state, high schools competing. There's an easy CTF that you can get acclimated to called Pico CTF. It's really a good one for beginners, and that's one that's run by Carnegie Mellon. So definitely something you can get started on and learn right away with. It's a good resource. Try Hack Me is really cool, really good free resources. So I can show you that. Not only does Try Hack Me have different learning paths, but they also have different competitions. So, and then they have run-throughs and walkthroughs of how to go through all these different competitions. So, a step-by-step of how all the problems were solved. So they have red team. You can learn about pen testing. You can learn about networking. You can learn about lots of different learning paths. They have, you know, CompTIA learning paths. A lot of it's free. If you want like the upgraded subscription, it's like $10 a month. I know students who have done all the free content on it. It's very good. It's interactive. It has hands-on learning. Not every student has the ability to have virtualization and has a computer that can do it. They may have a Chromebook. They may be in a school system that's all they have access to. Something like this would be a good pivot because you can use the Kali Linux or Parrot Linux on this platform. They have different um, uh, leagues and things that you can participate in. It's really one of the best resources that I've ever used, and like I said, a lot of it's free. So I've also used it to set up my own competition here, which I've run for high schools and community colleges as well, as four-year universities too. So there's another platform which you can pay for as a nonprofit. Um, you have the ability to get a discount, but here's this is a typical. This is actually my schools that I made them pay for. So basically, what you kind of do here is you have different questions that you write, and the students click on them, and then this is really what the this is really what the students do is they get questions. There could be a download, a file, identify the file type. There could be virtual machines that they have to access and look for certain things, IP addresses, subnet mask. You can use this with Cisco, Packet Tracer. You write the questions. Um, it gives you awesome analytics on who solved what. The students really like the challenge of doing this, and this gives you a great opportunity to do collaboration where students can work with each other and be a team. So we set teams of four, teams of five. I actually went out to uh, the Los Angeles Unified School District this year earlier and ran a competition, and the students really liked it. So it's the one thing that we talked about during our last program evaluation is one of the great things about competitions is if you think about a Cisco lab that's like, type EN, type config T, set the IP, type no shut, they the guidance isn't there as much. So you really have to apply your learning. And it may say, okay, well, crack this password, type 7 password, or do various things. Look at this PCAP file and find the IP address or the MAC address. So it's competitions are really about the application of learning, the teamwork, the networking, all the things that you can do. We've had some of my students offered jobs right on the spot. So our team is actually at University of Maryland Global Campus highly recognized. So we're known as the Shells. And the reason I picked the name the Shells, we were actually the Padawans. But when Disney bought Star Wars, they sent us a cease and desist letter and said that we would be sued if we used it, even though we were just a cyber team. But anyway, we list our awards each year, and in the past 10 years, we've received over 50 first place, second place, third place, and awards. And that's good. And we also happen to be, not to give ourselves too much kudos, but we also happen to be number one in the world in Hack the Box, which is one of our resources that I'm going to talk about in 1 second here. This is a little bit more complicated than Try Hack Me and Pico. Those and Cyber Patriot, those are more beginning level entry. Hack the Box is about as complicated as it gets. You're actually, using virtual machines to break into other systems. They do have CTFs too, But this was not something that we got to in 5 minutes. It took us years to get. I mean, in the top 100, there's probably only 14 schools from the US. And as you can see, there's no schools from the US in the top five. But right now, we're still number one. And it looks like we're up on the rise. I think our highest rating has been 6, but it's nice to see. As you see, we have a lot of students, almost 300. But like I said, this has taken me 5 years to get us here. It's not something that I did overnight with the team, and I don't deserve any of the credit. All the credit goes to uh, the team. So on Meta CTF, they actually ran a competition this week in that was over in Tampa. So I worked with them a little bit on that. But the reason I'm mentioning Meta, they have some content for free, but the other reason is they also have these Flash CTFs. So let me bring my screen over here and show you what I'm talking about. I got to be careful when I do all this. But anyway, yeah, there you go. So this is a Flash CTF, and they have prizes and stuff. And these are just like a 1 day competition. Yeah, they're kind of difficult, but nonetheless, it's another resource. Hack the Box I talked about. I know the Meta CTF also works with the Cryptological Museum. That's actually where I'm doing the presentation. I believe I'm affiliated with that. There's like an NSA competition that you can do that's free. Some of the schools, I don't believe CCBC has it anymore, but PGCC has NetLab. So NetLab has virtual machines and infrastructures like you're seeing right there. That's actually one I developed and I used for a competition that CCBC was in. And if I'm not mistaken, CCBC won the regional competition in 2024. And I believe they finished like third in the national or second. Don't quote me on that. But anyway, Vinny's done a great job with the team. And I would like to give her an opportunity to say some things about cyber teams as well. I already asked her that earlier this week, even before my schedule got changed for the presentation. So anyway, at that point, you're gonna if you have any questions, Vinny will be glad to provide you with my email address. I can also put it in the notes, so I can actually click stop share and I can turn my video off because it's early. And in the chat notes, I can put my email address. So if any of you want to contact me, again, I apologize I couldn't be here, but I'm so glad to do outreach and speak with all of you. If you want to send me an email and you have any comments or questions, I'm glad to help. I'm glad to work. I'm glad to come out to schools. So thank you all so much. And Vinny will wrap up the rest of the presentation. Have a great day. Thanks.